To boos and frustration, Key West commissioners voting 4-2 to enter into a 287G, that formal agreement with the feds on immigration enforcement.
Tonight, I had to vote in support of signing the 287G to give our chief of police the authority to assist, not to go out there and to raid. It's to go out there and to assist ICE.
The public comments stretched nearly 3 hours with an only in Key West musical serenade, residents in overflow rooms and packing the lobby.
We want to make sure that everyone can see that immigrants keep our island alive.
By making our police officers act as hitmen for ICE, the excellent community rapport we have had with our police vanishes.
So it would probably be a little bit premature for me to come out and tell you that the tide is turning within the Democrat Party. I mean, needless to say, they're still just as crazy. But it is worth noting here that as the party becomes more and more radical nationally on this issue of ICE and deportations, you have gotten renewed calls from prominent Democrats now saying they want to defund and abolish ICE. You have a very small handful of national Democrats, John Fetterman there being one example, saying, hold on, maybe we should pump the brakes on this a little bit. Maybe we should understand that our party does not win over the stance of open borders. And if you don't believe me, look at the 2024 election. It's really not all that hard. But even on the local level, we have a situation to report to you today out of course, Florida, because who knew it would always be this place, where a prominent sanctuary city, or they tried to be a sanctuary city in that state, basically had to fold within the span of days because, as it turns out, nobody's above the law, and some local random city council in Key West rapidly found out they're not above both Florida state law and federal law. And so positive developments to bring you here today, because we're so often talking about how some violent agitators are like burning down Los Angeles. So I figure, why not share for you a little bit of good news? We'll get into it. First though, folks, as usual, if you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe if you are new. Subscribing to the channel is not only the best way to support our videos, but it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And with that said, let's, of course, start with this minor story, nationally at least, over the 4th of July weekend, where the city commission, the city council, whatever, for Key West, Florida, voted here to 6-1. And by the way, Key West is a very blue area, needless to say. A lot of like weirdo old Democrat hippies basically live there. Voted 6-1 to void its immigration enforcement with ICE agreement, its immigration agreement there. The city will no longer abide by the 287G program, which trains local law enforcement to interrogate and detain illegal aliens for potential deportation. Now, this is basically in response to the fact that Florida, when you look at them, and by the way, this is how every red state should be. There's no excuse why every Republican governor in this country is not following suit here. Is not just a non-sanctuary state. It is actively like an anti-sanctuary state, right? We have local law enforcement, Florida State Troopers, Highway Patrol in this state actually help to do their own basically ICE raids and work in full cooperation there with the government. And Key West was basically passing this memorandum that said that will no longer be the case. And newsflash here, I want you guys to take a wild guess. How long do you think this lasted? Not very long, but first, here's what happened.
Public comment in Key West City Hall lasted nearly 2 hours. It was a 6-1 vote among those commissioners. Well, the resolution makes the immigration enforcement agreement with Key West PD, quote, void and unenforceable. WLRN reports it was put in place by the department's police chief, but not approved by the commissioners. Local police officers now, it gives them training and the authority by Customs and Immigration to enforce those federal immigration laws. It's important to note here, every sheriff's office in Florida has now signed this agreement that gives them the authority now to act as ICE, enforcing those federal immigration laws.
It's, of course, pretty telling, first of all, how quickly we forget here, because it was just less than a year ago where the area of Key West for years under the Biden administration was being terrorized by the migrant crisis of basically people just trying to float on shore here, right back in 2024, as is covered here by Jen Wright. We were planning a vacation to the Florida Keys, but repeated migrant arrivals made us rethink our plans. These are the stories you saw repeatedly, right? At least 500 migrants arrive in the Florida Keys, which, newsflash here, is not a gigantic place, in what county sheriffs are describing as a, quote, crisis. Officials at Dry Tortugas National Park said they expected it to be closed for several days, right? Shutting down our national parks. Talk about the quality of life issues this is always impacting. Shutting down national parks back under Biden because of the space and resources needed to attend and deal with the migrants, as well as potential safety issues. But apparently this Democrat city council is perfectly keen on sending their area right back to that. But of course, in regards to this immigration enforcement memorandum agreement here, the question many were posing immediately was, is this even legal, right? As I said, Florida has state laws on the books that make it not just not a sanctuary state, but an anti-sanctuary state. Yeah, newsflash, it's not legal. It never was legal. And this did not last very long.
And right now we can tell you the commission chambers, they are at capacity. There are 3 overflow rooms, and check this out. This is just the hallway. You can see these folks are watching the meeting right now on the monitors. The mayor earlier today, she made it clear that her no vote last week wasn't because she didn't want to cooperate with the feds. She says the agreement last week was not executed correctly. So now they are debating again, and public comment is happening right now.
Last week, a standing ovation here when commissioners voided the agreement known as 287G that was signed by the police chief in March, but without commission input. Soon after, the Florida Attorney General sending this warning letter that Key West has to participate or else the commission faces civil and criminal penalties, including removal from office. He's in the back of this Border Patrol car. We've embedded with federal agents in other parts of the Keys, making targeted arrests of people here illegally with criminal records. Agents have also made immigration arrests in Key West. Some here selling T-shirts ahead of the meeting believe the letter of the law makes it optional to sign on, and they plan to speak out.
I don't have a problem upholding federal law, but I do have a problem with entering into a voluntary agreement that our city does not have to engage in. I want to make sure that everyone can see that immigrants keep our island alive.
They're the heart and soul of our community, and so we need to stand up and we need to fight for them.
So this meeting has been going on for about an hour. People to come because they have signed up to make public comment. Some have argued that this agreement may be mandatory for sheriff's offices, but not cities. So the question is, does Key West have to sign on? A lot of these folks say no. Some have actually argued that the city of Key West should do what South Miami is doing and suing to get clarity. Much more to come.
It's just so ridiculous. Immigrants keep this island alive, he says. Now, I don't know if you guys have been to Key West, but I will tell you, it is not really the most diverse place in this country, okay? This is the same place that just had a total meltdown a year ago, right? Crisis, they called it, as 500 migrants showed up to the area. 500, right? Not 20,000, like you saw in Springfield, Ohio, which the residents of Key West would lambast and label as racist for not allowing 20,000 Haitian migrants into their area and finding that there were issues with quality of life because of it, right? That's so horrible. This is identical exactly to the Martha's Vineyard situation. I think back to when Governor DeSantis here, ironically, was the one who sent like a handful of buses of migrants there. And Martha's Vineyard, the super liberal area, was saying, "We love you guys. DeSantis is so bad. Trump's so bad. We love open borders. Biden is amazing. We're all Democrats, but you can't stay here. No, go home, but we really like you guys," right? Same exact nonsense here happening, okay? Because this is a place, they claim they love the illegals so much. They claim they love the migrants. But, maybe don't be in our part of Key West, not the nice part. We know. Insane, okay? Utterly obnoxious and pretentious. Same exact thing. Identical places, right? You're talking about small, little, rich, posh, liberal areas that claim they love this stuff so much, but that is, of course, until it actually creates problems in the area, and then those problems should be kicked down the can to, I don't know, rural America, right? Some town in Ohio and Nebraska can deal with that. Yeah, but they're bigots for having issues with it. Even though they're significantly poorer, guess what? They probably don't even have the space or the money to be taking care of these people. No, that's your fault. You're such a bad person for that. Unfreaking believable. But anyways, as you heard alluded there to in the news story, right after this, within days, the Attorney General of Florida, James Uthmeier, said here that the city of Key West has violated state law when they voted to void the Key West Police Department's agreement with ICE. We will not allow this unlawful sanctuary policy in Florida. They have a choice. Stop impeding law enforcement from enforcing immigration law or face the consequences here. And as it goes on here to state, and this is why we love the style of governance at the state level that Florida goes into, right? Florida statutes prohibit law enforcement and local government entities from adopting or having in effect any sanctuary city policy. Sanctuary policy defined here means a law, policy, practice, procedure, or custom adopted or allowed by a state or local governmental entity which impedes a law enforcement agency from complying with the U.S. Code or which prohibits or impedes a law enforcement agency from communicating or cooperating with a federal immigration agency so as to limit such law enforcement, etc., etc. Hereby declaring that the department's existing agreement void, Key West has made itself a sanctuary city, prohibiting its police officers from receiving the necessary federal training to adequately enforce immigration law. Not only prevents city police from enforcing current law, but also effectively prevents city police from participating in federal immigration operations. In this instance, however, it's worse. The commission didn't merely prevent the police department from entering the agreement, it affirmatively voided the existing agreement under which police departments were actively operating bad policy and illegal. And as is noted here, by the way, right? Because guess what? A lot of the drugs, specifically one of the white powder drugs that comes to this country, a lot of it floats into Key West, okay? If you guys know what I'm talking about there. This is why he goes on to state, illegal aliens represent a significant danger to Key West. As an example, consider the month of March where ICE arrested 10 illegal aliens in the Florida Keys, all of whom were previously convicted sex offenders. Well, I'm sure that's just a Maryland father, right? Is another Democrat going to go have a margarita with these people? Unbelievable. These illegals' criminal records include convictions for lewd and lascivious acts on children, right? Not going to read those, disgusting details there. But later that month, Border Patrol arrested 2 or more illegal aliens in the Keys, one with a history of violent crime, including homicide. Maryland father, right? And another one who was previously arrested for animal abuse. We'll call PETA on that one. PETA is going to start supporting deportations here very soon. To close out the month, the Key West Police Department, working with ICE, arrested 7 illegal aliens, each with extensive criminal records, including elder abuse, which, given the geriatric population of Key West, I think they would be concerned about that. But I guess not, driving under the influence, and trafficking drugs like meth and Oxycontin. This is what we've been trying to tell you, okay? But, these brutal facts clearly show the danger that criminal aliens pose to the city of Key West. We think those facts are far more compelling than the nonsensical sloganeering of misinformed protesters. Florida law unequivocally forbids sanctuary policies, and it requires local governments to use, quote, best efforts to assist with immigration enforcement. Your recent action violated both of those laws. The City Commission must immediately reverse its June 30th action and allow the police department to resume cooperative engagement with ICE. Failure to take corrective action, and here's where it's significant, will result in the enforcement of all applicable city, civil, and criminal penalties, including removal from office by the governor pursuant to Florida statutes and the Florida Constitution. Basically saying, we're going to take you out of office if you continue to engage in this and potentially even arrest you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it did not take very long because about 8 days after the fact, guess what is now happening here, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, big surprise. Key West officials have now voted to re-enter their local agreement with ICE because guess what? The grandstanding there lasted about a week. I don't even know what the point of it was. Okay, what was the purpose of this? But of course, performative show as always, but check it out.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Can you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Carey?
No.
Commissioner Castillo?
No.
Commissioner Haskell?
Yes.
Commissioner Hoover?
Yes.
Commissioner Lee?
No.
Mayor Enriquez?
No.
Motion fails. Which you can incorporate all if every...
Do we have?
Madam Mayor, if I may?
Yes, go ahead.
I would just like to make the comment that it appears in this room that we are one human family unless we have a difference of opinions. And that doesn't seem one bit
Okay, so we have a motion We have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any other discussion?
Can I get clarity on the
Mayor?
amendments,
Yes.
please?
And as you can see, the little mob of Democrat activists who are terrorizing Key West and directly advocating for illegals like the ones we read in that press release to be kept, right, to stay in the community. They certainly were not happy, but there you have it, right? Key West immediately back into the immigration agreement. Now, this, of course, comes on the same week here that, as I said, maybe some tides are turning in very minor ways. As I said, Democrat Party still insane. We do, of course, have the one and only Senator John Fetterman coming out here and defending ICE, basically saying here that ICE agents are just doing their job and, quote, I fully support that. So this is now going to be causing a little bit of a rift in the party where, Zoran Mandani, for instance, and that crowd wants to get even more radical on immigration. Some people are saying, wait a minute, maybe people voted for mass deportations. Maybe it's not really a winning issue for Democrats to be acting like this. Anyways, take a listen here to the words of Fetterman, and then we will show you, as you can see here, demonstrating, right, how there's a little bit of a civil war breaking out in the party in terms of how radical, how crazy, how insane do we want to be truly with the open borders policies.
ICE agents are just doing their job, and I fully support that. And for me, and people in my party might, want to abolish it or, treat them as criminals or anything that's inappropriate and outrageous. ICE performs an important job for our nation.
Let me tell you this, when he is up for re-election in 2028, they're going to be aggressively trying to primary this guy from the left, right? The issue, of course, I think they're going to face is, well, he's by far the most electable Democrat for Pennsylvania, right? He's going to get a lot of Republican votes. Frankly, with the current kind of stance he's been taking, he's going to cruise to re-election. But this is, of course, highlighting how the party is tearing itself apart because once again, as usual, as you saw many times throughout the years, whether it was the Palestine issue under Biden or the sort of Bernie AOC revolution in the Trump first term, they cannot control their radical wing, right? The far left crazy mob here that are full of insane individuals, but the Democrats insist on letting them in. Oh, they provide us the energy, the youth, the enthusiasm, the militant opposition to the right wing, right? Turns out you can never control these people, okay? And that is, of course, the war that is now erupting. And hence, John Fetterman also went on here to have some choice words for the new New York City socialist phenomenon, Mr. Zoran Mandani. And this basically, again, represents the rift that you are currently seeing in the Democrat Party in terms of how crazy do we really want to be.
I'm not a voter in New York City, and so I have no dog in that fight. And everything that I've read on him, I don't really agree with virtually any of it politically. So that's just where I'm at as a Democrat. I mean, he's not even a Democrat, honestly.
He's not even a Democrat, honestly. Some interesting choice of words there. We'll see how the leftist mob decides to react to that. But I want to close this video here, shifting quickly back to Florida to give you some updates on the Alligator Alcatraz situation. Because just talked about Key West, so let's talk about now Alligator Alcatraz, because as you could probably expect, people are having a total meltdown about this. But Governor DeSantis just yesterday went on Jesse Waters to defend it, saying, quote, "We did not create the Four Seasons. That's not the intent of this. All these standards are a lot higher than was even acquired, but Alligator Alcatraz is going to enhance the ability of the federal government to do more deportations of illegal aliens, and that's what people want to see because they're claiming, oh, human rights abuse is all this like panic and stuff." So here you go.
You're going to have people descending upon Alligator Alcatraz. They're going to want in. They want action. They want to save people from the mosquitoes, we believe. Are you prepared?
Oh, man. So listen, we built that Alligator Alcatraz in record time. Federal government's blessed it. They're going to provide reimbursements for Florida, which is great. But it is a center to process illegal aliens and then to provide a pad to deport them from the runway that's right there. We did not create the Four Seasons. That's not the intent of this. All the standards are a lot higher than what was even required, but that's, really beside the point. The point is this Alligator Alcatraz is going to enhance the ability of the federal government to do more deportations of illegal aliens. And that's what people want to see. That's what a lot of us voted for. And that's what the rule of law calls for. Now, we are allowing this weekend the Democrat any congressman from Florida and the state reps. So there'll be Republicans that go too. They're going to be able to go. But what we're not going to do is provide them with a platform to virtue signal and have some politicized photo op. I mean, if they want to see, they'll see there's professional folks that are there running this. But isn't it odd, Jesse? I mean, I have never seen the Democrats fight this hard for American citizens.
No.
I mean, they're outraged that there may be a mosquito in South Florida because it affects an illegal alien. But I don't see them exerting a fraction of this effort to defend the American people. They certainly didn't do it during the BLM riots. I didn't see them defending U.S. soldiers when Biden kicked them out of the military because of the COVID jab. But yet, illegal aliens, that is where they're planting their flag. And so we're just excited that we're part of the solution to the problem of illegal immigration. And I think it's been a great partnership with DHS.
Well, as I'll once again reiterate to the left and to the illegal aliens themselves, if you don't want to deal with the drama of the ICE raids terrorizing your communities, as you say, if you don't want to deal with stuff like Alligator Alcatraz or, frankly, any detention ICE center, there's a very simple solution to all of it, which is, as has been massively promoted through the CBP Home app, you can simply self-deport. You can even self-deport on a free flight with a $1,000 cash voucher to relocate. Because guess what, right? Do you think we want to do this either? Do you think MAGA voters, do you think the federal government wants to have to go through all of that? No, we would prefer, frankly, that people who are in the nation illegally and know that to be the case simply pack up and leave, right? Maybe you had your little stay, okay, you took advantage of the law, whatever. That time is over. So respect it. And as a visitor illegally in the country, you're a guest, you're not really a part of it, you're not supposed to be here, right? You could simply go home and not have to deal with all of this. But because that's not the case, because we have people who refuse to leave on top of a political party that defends violently, and I mean quite literally violently, their right to illegally stay here, this is what, of course, we have to deal with. And the constant drama, the constant fight, when this could be a lot simpler if people just did the right thing, frankly. But of course, that's not the case. But with that said, guys, let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. What do you think of potentially a rift happening in the party? Kind of overstated, I would say, but still, okay. Kind of an interesting story here. Let me know. Be sure to leave a like on this video. Subscribe if you are new. And until next time, God bless and peace.